All right, welcome to WARR Media's Super Bowl recap. The Kansas City Chiefs outlast the Philadelphia Eagles 38-35 in the 57th edition of the Super Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with my WARR colleague Ryan Bukovetsky, who you might have seen on our Bears pre and post game coverage all season long, as well as the co-host of the That Davis Show. And our guest of honor today, sports anchor from Fox 4 in Kansas City, Harold Kuntz. Thanks for coming on, Harold.
Hey, appreciate you having me, guys.
Of course, of course. And let's start off with just initial thoughts of the game. I think it's safe to say it lived up to the hype in the sense that it was close and, the plenty of points on the board, not to mention gutsy performance from the pair of quarterbacks. That going into the game, there's a lot of injury talk. Jalen Hurts' shoulder, Mahomes' ankle, right ankle, and his ankle came to play in the, it had it came up in the game, but it wasn't, that obviously we all know that he was Super Bowl MVP. So it didn't matter. What more can you say about that guy, right? And also, I think going into that game, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, watch out, Mahomes gonna have to worry about the Eagles' defense, this and that," and they weren't much of a factor. They didn't get any sacks or anything like that. So, Harold, we'll start with you. Just overall thoughts on the game and the championship for the Kansas City.
Yeah, I really think it just came down to who had the ball last.
Mm-hmm.
Those defenses, as much as they were projected to be pretty good, played no real role in the game, especially in the second half. I mean, the Chiefs got 1 3 and out, just like the Eagles got 1 3 out in the first half. So that was the only success they really had. And in the second half, give credit to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. The offensive stuff they put together was, I think, as top class as they've ever been all season, and really in Andy Reid's career. I mean, you look at drives of touchdown, and the winning field goal, and then of course, the winning field goal was only because Jerick McKinnon took basically a knee at the 1 yard line.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they had Jonathan Gannon schemed out perfectly. They used every receiver imaginable. Juju got his catches in. Sky Moore gets his first touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. Kadarius Toney, it gets in the end zone on the same route, essentially. It was a play calling masterpiece
Mm-hmm.
from the Kansas City Chiefs that allowed them to win that game.
What about you? What about you, Ryan? What were your initial thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Harold is saying. I think when you just look at both of those teams, a 38-35 score, I think just overall Kansas City weathered and just handled all the conditions a little bit better. They were a little bit better on coaching, a little bit sharper. That field wasn't exactly great. A lot of guys
Mm-hmm.
slipping and falling, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of negated the Eagles pass rush a little bit, but Kansas City was able to manage that better. A lot of distribution. Patrick Mahomes just being great. Jalen Hurts was fantastic in that game,
Mm-hmm.
but Patrick Mahomes was just a little bit better, just a little bit more of that superstar, a little bit more of that difference maker. And that's really what that game was, right? Just a little bit more Chiefs than Eagles. Both of the teams represented the NFL well in terms of how they competed and how they played in terms of what they established all year long as a precedent of play. So it was really entertaining to see the back and forth. And I felt immediately when that was the Super Bowl matchup, Chiefs by a little, based on just a little more star power with Mahomes
Mm-hmm.
and Kelsey.
Yeah, no, and also, Harold, as you talk about the wide receivers as well, everyone was talking as well. They're like, oh, like is it going to be an issue in the Super Bowl? This or even the playoffs, the lack of wide receivers. But it's like Patrick Mahomes. I don't think it's going to matter. He could throw to anybody, let alone Kelsey is basically like the best receiver in the league, right? So it's like I don't know. It's just people like we're talking about all this, but it's like, do people not know who Patrick Mahomes is until like he went out there and did what he did, right? But and I'm sure you've talked about it endlessly, the last holding call towards the end of the game. But and despite Eagles, cornerback James Bradbury admitting to holding Juju on that play, this is continued past the game. I saw, with the tweet, where, there's a Valentine card with Bradbury on it, Eagles wideout. AJ Brown replied, calling Juju a quote, TikTok boy. And Harold, I saw you shared it and you included that the fact that they play next year. So that's going to be pretty sweet, huh?
Yeah, they do play next year, and I think a lot of people are just concerned about all the talk that goes on. I mean, that could be a opening night consideration because the NFL always
Mm-hmm.
starts with the Super Bowl team at home, so that could be an opening night consideration for a Thursday night game. But regardless of that, I mean, let's look back at the past. AJ Brown, he was a
Mm-hmm.
member of the Titans who lost to the Chiefs in the AFC
Mm-hmm.
Championship beforehand, and now he's with the Eagles who lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. So he's been scorned a lot by the Chiefs organization in his professional career. So I know there's a little saltiness there. And Juju was there for a year. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I mean, he's there for a year. there was interest. There's always been interest in Juju from the Chiefs. Like we forget a couple years back, 3 years ago, there's always been interest in him. But he was coming off those injuries, and we just didn't know how it was. He got injured in the middle of the season this year. He got a hard hit against Jacksonville in concussion protocol, and he admitted after the AFC Championship he couldn't even walk until the training staff got with him and they got him set to go for the Super Bowl. So he credited the training staff there. But yeah, it's there's a lot of talk and everything. And I mean, I get that people are going to talk, but it was a holding penalty. It's always going to be a holding penalty. I think NFL Films had a better angle of it where it was pretty clear as day that it was. It's just one play doesn't decide a game, and we all know that. Because let's just say they did stop them on third down. Well, Harrison Butker probably goes up there, kicks a field goal, and then the Eagles still have a minute and change to operate, maybe minute 20, minute 30 to operate. And who knows if they even do anything there. So, I mean, we can't play the what if game. And the referees made the call. It was Carl Shepard's crew, but and you could argue he shouldn't even be refereeing the Super Bowl, but that's just another story for another day. But they didn't have much choice because NFL refereeing overall, despite what Roger Goodell says, hasn't been great, and it needs to improve.
What were your thoughts on it, Ryan, overall? The situation as well as, what happened after?
I think Harold summarized it pretty well. I'm with you, Harold, in terms of Carl Jeffers. You just wonder if anybody who is qualified to do a Super Bowl game nowadays when it comes to officials. But beyond that, I just love what you mentioned before, the opening night game next year, Chiefs Eagles. The NFL is dying for a little natural rivalry, and this seems to make a lot of sense. But I don't think the Eagles, with what they've built, is going away anytime soon. And we know the Chiefs, with 5 straight AFC, they're not going anywhere anytime soon either. So this is a very natural rivalry. And then you throw in the social media component and just how fun it is to kind of see some of that back and forth. I think that's a very rich storyline to already how popular the NFL is. I think that's what they should be fanning, those flames. That would be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, just seeing that the reactions to that, and I wasn't expecting that, especially on Valentine's Day. We're supposed to be spreading love. These guys are just roasting each other. I think it's funny though. It's all part of the game. So, we reached the bonus part of the show. I want to get you guys' opinion on, I know besides the game, there's a lot of talk, the halftime show. I want to get you guys' thoughts on that. In general, did you guys like it? What'd you think? Start with you, Harold.
Well, I know the Chiefs liked it because the extended halftime allowed Patrick Mahomes to get a little more treatment on that ankle. Yeah. But I did find it fascinating when Patrick Mahomes said on the Jimmy Kimmel show that Andy Reid told him if anybody walks out of the locker room to go watch Rihanna, you might as well just keep on walking. But I mean, that's Andy. He's all business. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach for a reason. He's all business. He's a coach down to the end. But yeah, I mean, I got to watch the Rihanna thing in person. I mean, it was cool. I thought the elevated stages were pretty cool, and obviously she was limited to what she could do because we found out that she's pregnant again. So God bless her for going out there and performing the way she did. I mean, 13-minute show. I'm sure Chiefs fans were very happy with it because again, it gave Mahomes a little more treatment. And she put on a show. She rocked the house. She didn't need any help out there. She did it on her own. I thought maybe with Jay-Z and Lil Uzi Vert in the building, maybe something would happen, but nope. She said, I'm going to do it on her own, and it worked out.
Yeah, no, and before the game, she had said, I think in an interview, she was like, I'm thinking about bringing somebody out. And, she did bring someone out, but it was just, the baby. But Ryan, what about you? What'd you think overall about it?
Yeah, I liked it. I always I like Rihanna. I'm a fan to begin with, so seeing her, and I liked kind of not having guests for once. It seemed kind of like a classic, kind of clean, smooth Super Bowl show. I was a little bit confused with some of her dance moves, but that's all right. She can do whatever she wants. She's the queen. So yeah, I thought it was a good halftime show overall. I didn't feel like a strong reaction, but I rarely do to any of them.
Yeah, no, I get you on that one, but I will say this is I definitely like the design of it too as well. Even though I saw I don't know if you guys saw the memes with the Super Mario where because it looks like the Super Smash Bros levels that they have and it's up and down. I did like that, but Harold, this one's for you, man. I want to get your opinion. Obviously, us being a Chicago-based podcast, with the Bears having the first overall pick, if you were the GM, what would you do in this situation?
Oh, look, first let me say I got a lot of respect for Ryan Poles. I think the
Mm,
Bears are in good hands with him. He's learned. I've contended for years. I mean, the best way to kind of dethrone a Super Bowl champion is just hire all their people.
mm,
I
yeah.
mean, you can't hire Andy, you can't hire Brett, you can't take away Patrick, but like you can take away a lot of other people. I mean,
Mm,
you could offer some deals, something. I think you're in good hands with Ryan Poles. He's a good dude, and I got to know him a little bit while I was in Kansas City. He always seemed to have his head on his shoulders properly, and he'll make some right calls. But that's an interesting choice. I mean, you can try to get some talent, and then try to just sell a bunch of your draft picks. I mean, the Bears are in an interesting position. I mean, I saw the news today about how they basically bought the land for a new stadium.
mm.
Um, there's interest there. I mean, you've got a quarterback now, I think, in Justin Fields, you can kind of build around as long as he develops more of that throwing game. And yeah, I just think if you got the quarterback that you believe you can build around, then you start getting them some weapons. And you either got to develop your own weapons or you got to get trusted names. And right now, unlike last year where we thought this was a very heavy wide receiver draft, it's not looking that way. It's a lot more defensive draft, and I think the
Mm,
Bears are pretty good defensively. So there's an argument. I'd say it's a 60-40 chance he does try to sell that pick, just to get a lot of players and cap. I mean, we've seen what the Eagles could do. They sold its pick, and they got AJ Brown in return, and their
mhm.
fortunes changed to a Super Bowl contender instantly. I think the Bears should definitely give high level consideration to that with that pick and how much they can get. You just got to get the right players to fit them. But yeah, I do like Ryan Poles. He's got an interesting decision to make, but if they got a quarterback to build around, that's half the battle. And then the rest of the battle is just finding talent. And he's just got to determine what way he wants to rely on veteran talent or does he want to rely on developing talent. I mean, that sticks with coaching staff more than anything.
Yeah, no, I saw the comments also that Yankees GM made, Brian Cashman made about Ryan Poles as well, and just saying that he basically he's like he likes to take risks and all that. And that's what I like to hear,
Mhm.
especially from a guy like Cashman. So, Ryan, I know where you stand overall in the situation, but has anything changed or anything that Harold said might affected the way you think about who where do you want the Bears to go with their first overall pick?
Nope. That thing is for sale, and that's what I want it to happen. I want them to trade down no matter what. And especially hearing some of the things, like if this is the defensive draft we're thinking, like the Bears need a ton of help defensively, but you think with a secondary that's young and talented, you're at least okay there, and you need to just focus in on the front seven, and there's a lot of different options. So that puts even more premium for them to trade down. They only have one pick in the top 50. They have to find a way to multiply that. They have to find a way to get more because they don't have enough talent across the board. And we're not even talking about depth either. So that thing has to be sold. That's how I stand. And you stick with Justin Fields and you build around him.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. But I think that's a good place to wrap things up for the WARR Media Super Bowl recap. I want to thank my WARR colleague Ryan Bukovetsky and our guest Harold Kuntz from Fox 4KC for coming on. Really appreciate it, man. We will be back soon for more offseason coverage. Will the Bears, what will they do with that number one pick? Trade it, draft a QB? Who knows? But we'll get the answers, I think, sooner than you think. Hope everyone enjoys their week.